and welcome to another Sugar High Newsflash. My name is PA David and I'm a board certified and licensed diabetes and endocrine specialty PA practicing in Southern California, and Sugar High is your channel for relatable and reliable diabetes information that's always easy to understand. These news flashes are shorter videos that are meant to keep you up to date and current on new developments in diabetes treatment, research, and newsworthy diabetes related events. The United States FDA recently removed the black box warning of increased risk for amputation of the foot that it had previously placed on the type 2 diabetes medication Invokana. If you've been anywhere near a television or a radio in the past 3 years, you cannot have missed the drama surrounding Invokana. Infodrama. Ooh, that's good. I'm going to use that. Invokana made headlines a few years ago when news broke about a clinical trial that suggested that Invokana might double the risk of amputations. So here's a little bit of background. All new diabetes drugs are required by the United States FDA to perform clinical trials that prove that the medication does not increase the risk of cardiovascular disease in people who take it. These studies recruit large amounts of high-risk patients who either have established cardiovascular disease, such as heart attack or stroke, or have high risk of that cardiovascular disease. So a clinical trial called the CANVAS trial was designed to study exactly that for Invokana. The results of the study show that not only does Invokana cause no increased harm to the heart, but it actually reduces the chance of cardiovascular disease and the risk of hospitalization for heart failure. In addition to that, they also found that it seems to protect the kidneys from worsening diabetic kidney disease. Unfortunately, all of that great news was completely buried by an unexpected observation that amputations of the foot or toe happened in about twice as many patients in the group taking Invokana compared to the group taking a placebo during that trial. Now, this finding was only observed in this one clinical trial. The observation was noted around halfway through the study during a mid-study data analysis. And even though the study wasn't entirely completed yet, the company manufacturing Invokana and hosting the study voluntarily reported the observation to the FDA with the intent of being transparent. You know, sometimes it's better just to tell mom and dad that you broke the vase rather than get found out later. Now, before the study ever came out, Invokana had been widely studied in many other clinical trials before, and in none of those studies was there ever any increase in the incidence of amputation. Nonetheless, widespread negative press surrounding this report led to quite a bit of concern in the public, causing many patients to question whether Invokana was safe, and several lawsuits were immediately filed. After reviewing the data in 2017, the FDA imposed their black box warning, which is their highest level of safety warning on the prescribing information of Invokana. Even though the drug wasn't taken off the market, sales of Invokana absolutely plummeted. I mean, after all, there were two other drugs in the same medication category available in the United States at the time that didn't carry the warning of amputation. Now, before we talk about the removal of the warning, let's put these data and observations of amputation into a little bit of context. Now, my promise to the Sugar High audience is to never minimize any side effect from medications. Bad things can always happen and we need to be aware of them. But when it comes to truly understanding data and side effects, context does matter. So the CANVAS trial was a huge study with over 10,000 participants, and all of them had either established cardiovascular disease like previous heart attacks and strokes or high cardiovascular risk, and most of them were over the age of 50. So the people in this study were not your average, otherwise healthy type 2 diabetic people just walking down the street. I mean, I think we can all agree that a 65-year-old diabetic with a previous heart attack is a very different person than a 34-year-old mother of two who was just started on metformin last month. This study consisted of relatively sick people. Another important factor is that about 80% of the people who experienced an amputation in this study had already had an amputation before. And the amputation that took place during the trial was sort of like a secondary extension of the amputation higher up the foot or the leg. These were not amputations that were observed in like young, otherwise healthy people who previously had normal circulation in their feet and then all of a sudden needed an amputation because of new lack of blood flow. So within the past year or so, Newer studies on Invokana have been completed, and you can bet that they tracked the frequency of amputations really closely. And in the more recent studies consisting of thousands and thousands of patients, there were no significant differences between amputations in people taking Invokana and people taking placebo. So considering this new data showing less concern of harm in combination with the newly discovered benefits that Invokana offers, such as reduced cardiovascular disease, reduced heart failure, and reduced chronic kidney disease, the FDA made a rather rare reversal and announced that it will be removing the black box warning from Invokana's label. The FDA cited this new information and the observation that the amputation risk of Invokana now appears to be less than originally thought. The general warning of risk of amputation still remains listed in the prescribing information for Invokana, but has been de-escalated from black box status down to simple inclusion with all of the other known risks and side effects. So will we be seeing a new surge in uptake of Invokana now that the highly stigmatized black box warning has been lifted? Only time will tell, but I doubt it. The damage has kind of been done, and once people get afraid of something, it takes a lot to make them willing to try it again. Even Johnson & Johnson, the company that makes Invokana, has pretty much given up on promoting Invokana after everything that's happened. But at least we have this. If you happen to be taking Invokana and you've had that nagging concern in the back of your mind about that black box warning, at least now we know that this amputation concern was not quite as big of a deal as we originally thought. Thanks again for tuning in to this Sugar High Newsflash. I hope you found this information helpful and interesting. And if you did, do me a favor and click that like button. And if you're not yet a Sugar High subscriber, make sure that you click that subscribe button and the bell so that you can continue to stay current and keep up on everything new in diabetes management. I'll see you in the next video.